Good morning, this is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the pre-market webinar for the morning of Thursday, the 2nd of October. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to issue trading signals. Right, this is a video for paying subscribers at chartingthemarkets.substack.com, and it's published on YouTube after a delay of 24 hours. All right, okay, the first thing to look at today is obviously we're in a government shutdown. There's no obvious sign to suggest that's going to be ending anytime soon. And to be honest, there's an argument that it may well actually last the whole of the month, and possibly longer. So this is a chart from WSJ talking about, I showed this on the bigger picture yesterday, so you might already have seen this, but basically looking at the 20 government shutdowns since starting in September 76, finishing with the last one, which was obviously the second shutdown under Trump, which was in December 2018. Now, 10 of these were down over the shutdown period, and I have to say that's pretty high, given that actually the majority of the time markets tend to go up. So given that inside the only ones here, well, actually, I don't think in terms of an active bear market, there weren't many of these that actually were in an active bear market. This is actually fairly grim reading, and is suggesting that we might see some weakness in October if this persists. I would say that the last three of these have actually managed to close green. These are the colors here are actually just showing the administration, which administration was in power at the time. But last three of these have managed to close green, and actually the last five of these have managed to close green. So taken with a pinch of salt, and we've got this wild outlier from the last one where it actually went up 10% over the shutdown. But nonetheless, there is a bearish lean here, and we may well see that blow back at us in October. And I would note that we do have some nice looking topping patterns here, even if there's no current sign of them playing out, and they've got very little short-term support in terms of negative divergence. Okay, let's have a look at ES first. ES, we've got a possible 60-minute sell signal brewing. We do have a potential level top here. I was saying earlier in the week that what I was favoring whatever happened, ES and NQ making retests to the high. But after that, we might have a pretty decent looking topping setup. We do have that topping setup here. We've got negative divergence on the SPX and Qs, RSI 14s. Possible daily sell signals brewing. We've already got a daily sell signal fixed on Dire, and we've got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed on IWM. Now, I was saying that in the bigger picture yesterday, the caveat there is that I much prefer, in terms of short-term moves, RSI 5 sell signals, and we're not close to any of those. But nonetheless, it is worth noting, and we've got a decent looking little level top here, even if it's currently not showing any signs of playing out. And even if looking at crypto, I'm really leaning towards the upside here, although I'm thinking we might see a modest retracement. All right, NQ is continuing higher. Still a nice looking double top here, no current negative divergence. RTY. RTY is still actually a perfectly acceptable head and shoulder pattern. This is something I was mentioning about 3 or 4 days ago, that we might see these double top forms while we were still looking at head and shoulder patterns on RTY and YM, and that's exactly what we've got here. So we do have some decent patterns here, which could be setting up a move down. DAX has taken off. IHS made target yesterday, continued higher this morning, heading back to retest these highs, I think. ESDX has already considerably more than retested the highs. Now, obviously, these were both retracing for quite a bit of August, particularly on DAX. So we're seeing a reaction from that, but again, it doesn't look particularly bearish. All right, looking at SPX, we're not overvalued by historical standards. So when we get up to about 5 or 6%, then that would change. But to get there, we'd need to really get up to about 6850, 6900 area. So, and until then, we're not going to start looking particularly overvalued against the 45 DMA. In terms of the daily chart, we've got a possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing now. We've got another one of those forming on the Qs, and we've got one forming on ES as well. It's pretty decent looking setup, although, as I said, these aren't RSI 5 sell signals. I definitely prefer those for these retracements. In terms of Pattern set up here. We've got a potential level top set up here. I've got a trend line up here that I would be looking for resistance at if we reach it, and I've got that currently at about the 67.60 area on SPX. Nice looking potential level top, and a little wedge that might be overthrowing. Maybe. Not something I'm taking too seriously, and we've got no negative divergence on the 15 minutes at the moment, or on the hourly chart, where we're still finishing off the tail end of an hourly RSI 14 buy signal fixed at the low. Okay, looking at the Qs, no divergence on the 60-minute either. Again, I've got a nice looking trend line here. We're not in any danger of heading up towards testing it, but maybe we will. On the 15-minute, nice looking head and shoulders here, and what we could do this morning is set up 15-minute sell signals on the higher highs we're probably going to see at the open. Looking at Dia, we're not going back to retest the highs at the moment, but we might. In the short term, got a decent looking head and shoulders, not perfect, but pretty decent. But we're not that far away from a retest of this high here at 467. All right, let's have a look at IWM. And IWM, we have on the daily chart, obviously we've still got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed. We tested the daily middle band again a couple of days ago, but at the moment that's still holding a support. If it continues to hold a support for any length of time, I'd be looking really for a retest this high here at 247.18. On the hourly chart, no current divergence apart from a possible RSI 5 sell signal brewing. All right, here I prefer the RSI 14s on the hourly chart though. In terms of the 15-minute chart, tiny bit of negative divergence, and a decent looking head and shoulders. Looking at DAX, we touched the 3SD upper band yesterday, or it came very, very close to it. This wouldn't be a bad area to see some retracement. I would note that with what we're looking at on the DAX futures chart this morning, that we are likely to have gone through the 3SD upper band. Generally speaking, that's an opportunity to pause, so I'm slightly skeptical about seeing too much more upside in the short term. On Nikkei has gone back and tested the daily middle band. The RSI 5 sell signal has pretty much made target. That was the one I was really looking at rather than the RSI 14 sell signal. I'd quite like to see a test of this wedge support. I've got that currently at about the 43,650 area, but we may well not see it. So maybe it's just going to hold the daily middle band. But actually, I was thinking that it might be a struggle for Nikkei to retrace while the others were going up, and well, it managed it. So it doesn't necessarily need to get any lower than this. We shall see. All right, let's have a look at DX, where I am very much wondering about this head and shoulders possibly making target in the 96.6 area and possibly going back to retest the low. We will see how that goes. There's a kind of mood on the other. Got an IHS trying to break up here on the euro. We've got an IHS which has broken up here on GBP. We've got, well, I didn't draw it in because it's not high enough quality, but really this is a head and shoulders breaking down with a retest at target and a retest the low. We've got buy signals which have not been delivering anything so far, but I'm wondering about DX possibly retesting the low here. On ZB, we're trying to break up from this little inverted head and shoulders. It's struggling to get over and hold over the monthly pivot at 116.29. We will see, but I am wondering about a retest this high. And on ZN, we got this falling wedge that could be a bull flag. It broke up, forming a pretty obvious and nice inverted head and shoulder pattern here. Again, I'm wondering about a retest of the high. All right, CL. We've had a buy signal for days on CL and HO and RBOB, and they haven't failed, but they've still been continuing down. We've managed to go from breaking a buck over the top of the range here to basically back to the bottom of the range. I'm wondering whether this break up here was foreshadowing a breakdown towards the retest of the low in the 56 area. On HO, this rising wedge formed, overthrew, and it's a nice wedge and has broken down below the wedge support. I'm liking the downside here. I'm wondering about a retest this low. RBOB, we've now almost made it. I think it's about 1.86, the big retest on the bigger picture chart, but we're getting pretty close to this. This is the bear flag I've been looking at for a while, and that's now broken down. Again, buy signal that's not really doing anything. NG, we've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed, and we've broken up from a double bottom with a target in the 3.8 to 3.828 range. I'm liking this. This is a very good fit with what we're seeing seasonally. And actually, given that we've got another 3 weeks plus in the current contract, I'm thinking we might make this within the current contract. So we shall see. GC, possible topping action within a rising wedge here. Not entirely convinced. If this runs away to the upside, I wouldn't be that surprised. SI has not yet reached the obvious target, which is the retest of the all-time high at 49.51. Decent looking little double top. We could see a retracement here, but really, if we just continue our higher towards 49.51, again, I wouldn't be surprised. Palladium might be heading back for a retest of the high. Platinum, maybe the same. I'd quite like to see another leg down to form a proper bull flag. We'll see whether we get it. HG, this was a really nice looking nested double top setup yesterday. It's deteriorated slightly overnight. If it goes up much higher, I'll be considering more seriously the possibility that we're not actually looking at a bear flag here, that we're actually looking at some kind of a rally which is just very badly formed. Waiting to see. All right, KC. KC, we're trying to break up. Well, we broke up from an IHS here. It failed. Normally, I'd be looking for a retest of this low here. I'm not seeing why we wouldn't see that, but at the moment we're still testing the monthly pivot as resistance. If it breaks over it, I could redraw that as another inverted head and shoulders, but really it wouldn't be as good quality as the one that's already failed. SB. SB, sharp retracement, held the IHS right shoulder, and I've still got a target up in the 16.8 area. I'm not seeing any strong reason to think we aren't going to make it, but we still need to get over the monthly pivot at 16.51. CC, still trickling along the bottom of this falling wedge. Actually, sorry, let's just move that trend line slightly. All right, we will see how that goes. But wait a second. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the trend lines as good as possible here. All right, that looks like the wedge. I was seeing it coming from here, but at the moment it doesn't look like that's the obvious draw. No, from there then. All right, we're trickling along wedge support, and there's no particular reason not to be going back up. We've got a 6-minute buy signal fix. I'm liking the pattern, but at the moment it's still trickling down. All right, CT saw a sharp move down. I am thinking on the bigger picture we might be setting up for a retest rather lower. I was looking at that on the bigger picture video. Lumber, 60-minute sell signal fix. We still got a little higher to go. We almost made it to the double bottom target, but not quite. Might need to go a little higher. But bigger picture, I've got a big double top that's breaking down. I'm not seeing. Well, I'm thinking lumber's probably going down a lot more. This looks like a counter trend rally. All right, looking at DW, possible double bottom here on corn. We've got a possible bull flag here. This could be a bullish underthrow. Waiting to see if this can get back over the weekly pivot at 42.75. Looking at soy. Soy, this could be a falling megaphone. Too big to be a flag, but this could again be a bullish underthrow. On ZL, this looks like a bear flag. And we've got a 60-minute sell signal trying to fix at the moment. Live cattle still looks like a possible bullish triangle, although we lost my trend line here, which was a shame because it was a very nice trend line. And lean hogs, we've broken down from the double top I've been talking about for the last couple of days. If we can get through this trend line support, which is currently in about the 85.9 area, then I've got targets down here in the 84.37 to 85 area. All right, great. Actually, no, it's got the target here in the 84.25. Yeah, 84.25 to 85 area. So we shall see how it goes. All right, great. In that case, let's have a quick look at questions. GDX. All right, let's have a look at it. Yeah, I covered this on the, obviously that's not really going to add anything to what I was saying on the bigger picture yesterday, but let's have a quick look at it again today. And we've got, as I recall, decent negative divergence. We've got definitely, the outlines of a potential retracement on precious metals. But look at the way this has been going up. I'm a little skeptical about front running this. We've got a possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing on the 60-minute, but it hasn't fixed yet. Daily chart, we've got quite a lot of negative divergence. I'm liking, sooner or later, this will retrace and it'll probably be sharp. Nothing strongly suggesting that it's going to be here. We've seen this thing of this basically. This is on a very, very strong uptrend, and there's the old thing about standing in front of a train. Do not assume that the train's going to be the one to stop. This is very, 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 very strong action. So I'd be reluctant to stand in front of it. In fact, this latest move up here, if it continues up and we actually go directly to the targets above, could actually find that we've actually doubled here within a period of about 3 months. We're not that far away from that now. We need to get back up to about 126. We're most of the way there. I'm skeptical about front running any retracement here, but there is definitely negative divergence suggesting that we might see one soon. All right, great. In that case, I think that's a wrap. Everyone take care, and I will catch you guys tomorrow morning.